Welcome to YSM Conversations, a gathering place for women who sense something deeper is calling. Together, we believe that the most profound adventures begin within, and that when women gather in deep conversation, something ancient and necessary awakens.
Open the door to a new conversation through generative listening, weaving together generations of wisdom and listening beyond the ears to restore the intelligence your body has always carried and integrate soulfulness into the adventure of your life. This is restoring and connecting to the deeper current running beneath it all.
We are YSM Conversations. Welcome home. Welcome back to YSM Conversations. Victoria and I are excited to dive into today's topic with all of you, which is, what is your superpower? We are going to dive into so many aspects of it because we really want to explore what a superpower is, how you know your superpower, maybe the name and how you communicate that superpower with others, and also why it's so important to know what your superpower is and to know what might happen when you start fully owning and claiming your superpower. When we show up fully in that light, in that superpower, in that awesomeness that you are, people want that too. So we're going to talk about that and see what rises for all of us. One really important thing that Victoria and I want to make sure that we're well aware of as we jump into this conversation is that you are not limited to one superpower. Each of us has more than one superpower. You may hear us talking about one individual superpower of ours or of other people's as we move through this conversation. Keep in mind, in your heart, in your body, and in your soul, that you have more than one superpower. Yes, you do have a superpower. For anyone out there who's thinking, I don't know what my superpower is, let's dive in. I don't yet have a definition for a superpower. And I do have this felt sense of what a superpower is or how a superpower reveals itself to you. What I always like to say is your superpower is really that thing that everyone says you're really good at. And when they say you're really good at it, might brush it off and say, oh yeah, thanks, or whatever. That most obvious thing, that thing that you probably are saying, I don't know how to not do that, is one of your superpowers. Harking back to our previous conversation in Origins of YSM, what is the work you can't not do? So with all of that in the field, I'd like to toss the ball to you, Victoria. What's coming up with this conversation?
There's so many threads that you laid out for us to be in conversation. I'm excited to see what does pull out because I don't really have any fixed aspect in mind of superpower. The one real clear vision of superpower and what it is for me is that the word organic came through in that what is it you can't not do? What is it that people see in you that is the given and the go-to of who you are? That it rises organically until you recognize it as a superpower, and then it's some combination of organic rising in the moments and conscious bringing it forward. So that's what I'm sitting with.
Thank you for saying that. I feel so many resonances in the body as you're talking through this. It rises naturally and organically as we start to wield and understand what our superpower is. And then once we really know it, name it, claim it for ourselves, what do we do with that? It's so real and fresh for me as well, because one of the things that happens in that organic phase when we're really good at something, naturally really good at something, is that people come to us for that thing and they say, you're really good at this. Can you help me? I'll give an example. One of my superpowers is asking questions. And on the flip side of that, being a good listener. When we're really good at something, it naturally attracts different kinds of people. And those people can be a combination of ones who are willing to do the work to learn the skill that you are good at in that superpower, and people who are not necessarily wanting to do the work, but who still want that thing. For me, it feels like it's been easy to blame my superpower for the ones who come in and don't necessarily want to do the work, and that creates this imbalanced relationship. Where it comes back into the conversation with what you were just saying, Victoria, is what do we choose to do with that superpower? What are we consciously choosing to do? And how are we consciously choosing to show up? It's this realization for me now of we can't blame our superpowers for relationships and patterns that come into our lives just because that's part of our field in our past. And how do we move forward in showing up fully in our superpowers and allowing or calling in those relationships that do feel balanced or opening, if we're talking in body and somatic language? What's coming through for you?
I'm discovering another superpower by how I responded in the organic nature and the consciously choosing to wield the power of the superpower. What you were saying brought me into whether we're recognizing our superpowers or when we actually do. I wonder if there's a cost to having a superpower, but we don't recognize it as that. You were saying the imbalances that may occur in relationship to it. And then there's a cost to not wielding the power yet. And there's also this benefit, this cost benefit analysis term they talk about. There's something that captured my attention. What if we looked at it that way for a minute to see the organic nature of a superpower showing up? I'll give a quick example. I have been the kind of person when I'm standing in line waiting to conduct business or do something fun, more often than not, someone will start a conversation with me. It's as if my energy vibe of my superpower is creating space and holding the container, being open, present, signals them in the body. And the initiation into that magnetic field is part of how I hold a superpower. What's the cost of that? What's the benefit of that? What say ye?
I'm going to use my superpower and ask some more questions. What, in your experience, have you seen as the benefit of this particular example? People starting a conversation with you in line, and what has been the cost of that?
So, with the benefit first, because that's what you started with, the benefit is oftentimes I meet the most interesting people and I get absorbed into their world and their experience. I get to observe and respond in ways that may support them in moving forward into the next wholeness of themselves, for sure. It happens on airplanes too. I've had some of the most deeply profound conversations, just like we have together, that simply organically rise from either magnetic curiosity of someone else or my own nudge. I wonder who this person is. There's something about them I'm intrigued by as well. I do want to say that there is that flow of energy from both bodies, both bodies. The cost can be that I will find myself triggered and clicking into an old pattern of assuming responsibility or to take care of whatever that conversation is, that I might need to do something with that to respond to it in a caretaking way. We talked about this in our very first podcast. I'm remembering back around the holidays, right? I know that's probably one of the obvious costs in holding a superpower like full presence, the capacity to show up and be the good listener, like you mentioned earlier. It can create that imbalance, overinvestment, old pattern.
I'm curious on the cost side of things with taking responsibility and overinvestment. What usually happens at the end of those conversations when you're in line? Because this is with a stranger, right?
I'm thinking back to multiple conversations over the years. And the more I've refined my ability to focus on the benefit end rather than the cost of leaning in too much. I find one of my other superpowers, my capacity for body sentience, body knowing. I more consciously now read the energy of my body and know if my body's in alignment with and in harmony with this person, then I find that I go deeper. If I'm not in that listening, I find I hold a clearer boundary about it. I don't ask the questions and I don't get as interested, and I let the energy dissipate out. I've watched myself consciously practicing with those tools to refine. So I'm going back in my mind to events that are more harmonious, and I can see the evolution of how I consciously have self-trained in my superpower capacities.
I'm going to repeat that back. I have self-trained in my superpower capacities. The words aren't coming for what that builds in. It definitely goes back to what you were saying of what do we choose to do with that superpower when we know this is one of our superpowers. And it's like anything. I feel like there's so many examples. I'll use Harry Potter because I love Harry Potter. If you're a magical being and you can perform magic, you still have to train. You still have to learn how to use that magic in a responsible way that is aligned with the way that you want to show up on the world. That training is so essential. And I think that we don't have much of that training in the world. How do you responsibly wield your own superpowers? How do you recognize what your superpowers are? And then how do you responsibly wield them in the way that is defined as responsible for yourself? I'm curious what your thinking on this is, or what your feelings on this are, Victoria, of what does responsibly wielding it really mean? Is that something that is an outside definition that we pull in from role models, or is it something that we need to find ourselves, or something else?
Sit with what just moved through. We'll meet you in the next one. Thank you for diving deep with us into generative listening. If this episode stirred something in you, subscribe to keep restoring with us. And if someone came to mind while you were in your own generative listening, share this episode with them. Because when women gather, something ancient and necessary awakens.
We are YSM Conversations, connecting back to the deeper currents on behalf of seeding our next collective wholeness.